A very warm welcome to all of you. Welcome to News9 Mediaverse, and you are watching To The Point. Now today in To The Point, United Nations group of independent experts have raised the Manipur issue in a light which is very unusual. These independent experts of the United Nations, without verifying the facts, put up fiction dressed as the facts on ground. Now let me come to the point on this. What is the issue? And what are these people saying, these experts? These experts have said number of things. These experts have said, one, that the extrajudicial killing took place. These are the misleading UN experts' comments. They said torture took place, ill treatment of ethnic minorities took place. They also spoke about inadequate government response to crisis. They also spoke about the fact that it is a religious fight, conflict described in Hindu-Muslim binary, Hindu-Christian binary. Let me correct myself. The conflict has been described in Christian-Hindu binary. Christian Kuki and Maiti Hindus. And most important of all, we have said this is wrong. India has kicked these things aside. India has said that everything is wrong, comments are presumptive and misleading. Government is committed to protecting human rights. Let me go to Brijesh. Brijesh, why is this tendency to see this fight in Christian and Hindu context? Why has UN expert taken that position?
Well, I think, it is one of the easiest narrative to fall prey to. Initially also, there were certain individuals or groups who were talking about this conflict which is going on in the state of Manipur in religious binary, which was definitely not the issue. It was not fight between Christian and Hindus. And it was fight between two ethnicities, and religion was unnecessarily dragged into it. And going by what the United Nations group of independent people say, it looks like most of the fact it has gleaned from the newspaper reports or just one-sided reporting which we talk about. There are no two ways that that violence has hit Manipur. Nobody can deny that. I'll be lying if I say anything otherwise. And there is no also denying the fact that now ghettoization in one way is kind of complete.
Okay.
But those are the realities. When you start, and it's a very layered thing. It cannot be just that you wake up and say that Christians are being targeted or Hindus are being targeted, extrajudicial killings are taking place and all. There is a fight which is going on. Yes, 200 people. Approximately 200 people have lost their lives, and what is happening is unfortunate, but it is definitely not the way United Nations report is trying to project.
Okay, I'll be joined by Professor Bhagat, concurrent faculty, Special Center for Study of the Northeast India, JNU, that's the department, and Mr. Thongolal Haukip, Assistant Professor, Center of Study of Law and Governance, JNU. Mr. Haukip, your first response on the comments of the UN expert who are trying to see this conflict as Christian versus Hindu conflict.
I don't think that by reading the brief reports that has been circulated in the website, just saying that the predominantly Hindu Meitei and the predominantly Christian Kuki ethnic communities that erupted in May 2023. I think this basically indicates certain religious composition, but it does not divide the two communities on religious line as we have projected here. And the denial of human rights violation by big powers such as China or Russia is not uncommon, despite the fact that violation happens in such places like Mongolia, Tibet, or for the matter in certain Russian territories. So I think these experts are very credible. I have looked into some of the issues they have dealt with, like issues of illicit cultivation of poppy and others, which of course Manipur has been grappling with. I have looked into the reports, and some of the reports.
But Mr. Haukip, they have also when I went to the report, they use like torture, extrajudicial killing, forced transfer of population. Yes, there has been transfer of population. There is no doubt about that. There has been there has been an issue where people have moved out. The 3 days ago, which we discussed. But to say that it was managed and this is a Hindu Christian thing is a pretty big outreach. I mean to say, it's like mixing fiction with fact.
Yeah, definitely. On 4th of May, I was invited in different media to discuss about this, and many experts were alleging about looking into the pattern of the burning of churches and other initial reactions of the conflict. It looks like a kind of a religious conflict. Many were alleging that the kind of conflict was planned by the churches and others. I debunked them that this is not a kind of religious conflict, because there is so much of religious tolerance so far in Manipur, despite some incidents in the past few months have happened in Manipur. Manipur is a multicultural society, and I think there is no conflict based on the religion in the past so many years. Despite of course, there are some incidents that sporadic incidents that happened in a very small scale level. And as I've read out, just looking into the population, the experts were trying to indicate the kind of population that they have also. And this doesn't indicate that the UN body or the specialists on this human rights violations are trying to divide the population into Hindu and religion and Christian. So I don't believe in that, and until they are evidently indicating that it is based on
Okay. Mr. How can
religion.
Professor Bhagat also join me? Professor Bhagat, international agencies also weaponize human right objectives. Now, in this case, what I really find very misleading, they said predominantly Hindu Maitis fought with predominantly Christian cookies. This is like grave misrepresentation of facts. It's like just saying just because Maitis are in majority, they are doing majoritarianism. It's like that. It's akin to saying that.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. See, violence has taken from both sides. There is no denying of the fact. But you cannot, pinpoint a particular community just because they happen to be Hindus, majority, or just they happen to be a majority community. So that part of the story, I felt that it has been a bit biased, the report. This division of Hindu and Christian should not have come up. So it cast a doubt on the very intention of those who are preparing this report. This is one. And secondly, when the violence has happened, people, this is even with the Editors Guild. What is happening is we very happily or very summarily ignore the genesis of the violence. How it all happened, how it all started is also equally important, as well as the quantum of violence. So the violence has taken from both sides of the communities. So that has to be coming out. But unfortunately, somewhere the victim and the aggressor, there is some kind of a divide. And the projection by the report is that majority Hindus are somehow ostracizing and
you're right. The same thing was with in the Editors Guild of India's report. Though I am against the sort of draconian provisions which have been raised against them, that goes against journalism. But the fact is that that report also had a slant. It has already made its judgment.
Kartikeya, I just wonder, those who are going to write this report, particularly those from United Nations, what are the sources? Have they contacted every party, every groups, and then arrived at certain conclusion? Or are they only depending on the narrative of a particular group? That is my slight doubt. Even with Editors Guild, though they had visited Manipur, but the kind of narrative they have, given up, shown it. And I'm sorry to say that we are, after all, we are all human beings. We have our
Correct.
ideological positions. That seems to have prevailed over your identity as a journalist, your identity as a researcher. Somehow that is the most unfortunate part. You have to keep your ideology in the backdrop when you are engaging into a responsible job,
Absolutely.
particularly when such a situation arises.
No, absolutely. Brijesh, we discussed that in the whole Editors Guild issue. Even today, if I take you to certain points, people don't read it because there is a release by the government of India. But it's like saying by mid-August 2023, an estimated 160% had reportedly been killed, mostly from the Kuki ethnic community. Over 300 injured. The conflict also reported resulted in tens of thousands of people from communities being displaced, correct? Thousands of homes and hundreds of churches being burnt, as well as the destruction of farmland, loss of crops and loss of livelihoods. I mean to say, religious structures of lot of communities came down, isn't it, Professor Bhavgat?
So the temples, Kartikeya, temples were also burned down, destroyed. So those who are writing the report must represent properly and do not show as if that it is only the churches that has been destroyed. And secondly, Kartikeya, even the churches, it is not all Meiteis who are destroying the churches. True, many churches has been destroyed, Kuki churches, but some of the Meitei churches, Meitei Christians churches, have also been destroyed by the Kuki Christian. So
Okay.
destruction of the churches are not only by the Meitei Hindus, but also the Kuki Christians are destroying the Meitei churches. So this part somehow is missing in the representation in the narrative.
No, absolutely. Mr. Hauke, would you like to respond to this?
Yeah, I would respond to my colleagues. One of the comments that the cookies were involved in the burning of churches. I think many interviews were conducted by the Wire and other medias, and many of them the church leaders have already said that the cookies during the conflict they don't have time even to pack their belongings. How will they have time to destroy churches? And there are confirmations in Tirsanpur and in More and other places that all the churches, whether it be from the Meitei community, they are all intact, and there are videos and others that confirms to it. And to my opinion, and despite my hesitations, I would say that religions also does play a certain role in trying to win favors during this conflict, whether it be the central government or whether it be the international institutions or perhaps the European Union or other countries. So religious, kind of, dissection also happens sometimes to win certain favors of the more powerful entities around the world or within the country. So definitely, of course, religion also plays certain role in trying to rehabilitate also. For instance, the cookies mainly get rehabilitation from Christian organizations around India and maybe perhaps around the world. And many of the relief materials, and even including medicines, they hardly reach the hill areas. They were blocked by many, agents. For instance, the Maimara Pabis and others were blocking any kind of food grains or medical supplies that goes to the hill areas, particularly Kampopi or Chosanpur or Tenupal districts. So this kind of happening, and unless people also mobilize themselves into certain certain entities, then they also feel the burn of this conflict a lot. So this kind of mobilization also happens for good in relief and rehabilitations in medicine and other sections of the current situation. So I believe that despite or denial that religion plays a huge role. Certainly, religion also has crept into this conflict in certain ways, which tries to win the favor of the churches or other entities that would be helping them in their welfare. For instance, in relief or in a kind of rehabilitation that is going on, which the hill areas mainly did not receive, did not adequately receive such rehabilitations.
Okay. You wanted to come in, Professor Bhagat?
Yeah, just a small clarification. I don't know whether Dr. Haukib is aware or completely ignored that part. When I said Meitei churches being burned, I'm talking of three churches in Churachandpur. This is already in the record. So those three Meitei churches in Churachandpur, which were burned down, uh, now the logical conclusion, even if everybody is denying, let us presume that everybody denies having burned down this. But the fact is, three churches were burned down in the Kuki dominated areas of the Meitei, three Meitei churches. So somebody must have burned down. Now, the fleeing Meiteis from Churachandpur cannot burn it down. It has to be somebody else, non Meiteis. So, whether it is a Kuki, whether it is a Paite, whether it is a Mar, or somebody else. So, one has to identify that. But it is a fact that Meitei churches in Churachandpur were burned down. This is one. But the more important point that Kartikeya, I want to bring it to the notice. Uh, while this religious card is being played
Bhagat
out,
Saab, the reason why today I thought, I'll have only two of you, because I was like slightly disturbed. People have right to make their reports. I'm against FIRs because, that's intimidation.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
against that.
true.
I'm
I agree
completely
with you.
against FIRs. People have right to say what they want to. But, I have issue with the framing of a conflict, When you frame conflicts in India, like the way UN has done it, they have used extrajudicial killing. I have been reporting with all of you for more than 125 days. This extrajudicial killing I have not reported it once. They have put it in the report, extrajudicial killing. Where is the extrajudicial killing? So you have to be, they have used all those wrong words. UN has used all those wrong words. If there would have been extrajudicial killing 2 years ago, they haven't said it, but they have said it is being done. Like yesterday in that Editors Guild, Valley-based media against the Kuki community, Valley-based media saying that the Kuki reporters cannot write. Why are you writing such things? Who is your source to say such things? What sort of impression are you building? So are you saying that all these journalists think like that? The cookies from the hills can't write?
It's like instigating violence rather than solving the issue, rather than downplaying and helping the people to come together. Such reports are going to instigate more violence. In fact, Kartike, many of the academic fraternity in Delhi, mostly the Meiteis, they have come out and they have even said that we are not very happy with the way FIR has been filed against my colleague Dr. Haukib, who is sitting here. I mean, uh, if he has written something and if there are things objectionable, we have to academically counter each other. Not that you go into a legal frame and go for FIR. I mean, that is what.
And also, Bhagat
Many,
Saab, what happened with those two Maiti lawyers was also wrong because they were representing Mr.
yeah,
Khamsamte.
absolutely.
If I'm
That is
pronouncing
crazy.
his name correctly, Mr. Khamsam, the gentleman from Hyderabad. Yes, तो उनका घर तोड़ दिया, हाँ, उनका घर तोड़ दिया गया. This was very wrong. This was very wrong. उनके ऑफिस तोड़ दिए गए.
These are not uncalled for, but I have one point to make, slightly shifting card.
Please go ahead. Today आराम से बात होगी क्योंकि इसलिए I have not cluttered it. See, only two of you here. I don't want those TV. आराम से बात होगी आज.
See, Thankulal is a good colleague. I mean, my younger colleague, I must say. We have difference of opinion, but certainly we can talk. The very fact that we have agreed to each other to dialogue is itself agreement that we can still talk and sort out issues. But only thing is we have to, while we have a position, we have to come out of that and look out for amicable, solutions towards some peaceful understanding. One issue that I'm finding is, while whether it is the Editors Guild or whether it's the UN, this repertoire, independent fact finders, at the end of the day, Kartikeya, if you look at the message between the line, is a bad name to the government of India, to the Indian state. It is not so much between the Maitei and Kuki, but it was all targeting towards the government of India. And this is something I felt deliberately being done. One needs to take it very seriously. And I have my own reservation in the way my Kuki groups
Not
have
only
been
Indian
writing.
government, I think it's about image of India as if it is, it's as if it doesn't know how to keep its minorities, it's as if it's hostile
Yes,
to
somewhere.
minorities,
Right,
it's like
right.
Hindus are hostile to the minority community to build that narrative, if you read it.
Kartikeya, this is a stereotype that the entire Western world had been trying to project India.
Yes,
This
I
is very
agree. I
unfortunate,
agree.
but they got a chance. They got a chance in the northeast where you find Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram. These are all fairly Christian dominated region,
And it comes very
except for the
conveniently
Meitei.
before G20 also. Very
Yes,
conveniently before G20.
yes. This is something very worrisome. But then we also have to, I would even charge it to my colleague, Dr. Hawkip, not that he is writing, but the group he represents, is that the way the cookies have been writing to the United Nations, to the Israel Prime Minister, to the European Union. So, what does that really imply when you are writing? You, not to Dr. Hawke, but I am talking of the organizations who are writing to European Union, to the British Parliament,
नहीं
to
करना चाहिए.
what you call the Christian consortium, saying that we are the victims. You are even writing to the Prime Minister of Israel, saying that we are the original Jewish community being, mistreated in India. At the end of the day, what you are charging is government of India is not doing its job. I mean, the target of the cookies should have been to the government of India. Why the cookie organizations have to write to the European Union? Why do they have to write to the Christian community in the West? Why do they have to write to the Israel Prime Minister? This is outside my understanding. The politics that should have been an internal politics of India has been internationalized, and in that process, it gives a bad name to the Indian state.
Yes. Dr. Hauke, please respond to this. I think this internationalization, writing those letters were completely avoidable, sir.
Definitely, it's completely unavoidable. But how long has this conflict, linger on? It's been more than 4 months now. We have been appealing. Everyone wants peace in Manipur on the 4th, 5th, and 6th of May. We have been, discussing, and we have been appealing that the law and order to be restored. The chief minister said, in one of his, speeches that if law and order is not restored within 48 hours, he will, he will recommend President rule to the Home Minister. But that didn't happen. A shoot-aside order was, given, but nothing happens to control the mob. So the conflict continues, and by the end of May, it once again started again. So, and spontaneously, it has been continuing for the last 4 months. And in this conflict, many have died. And during this time, there are so much desperation, despite appeals, despite many organizations, and many entities saying that there is complete collapse of law and order in the state. Nothing has been done. And a few weeks back, the Home Minister was saying that the Chief Minister of Manipur is, cooperating. How is he cooperating when there is, a bifurcation of populations of the hills and the valley? So these things happens, and maybe in meantime, after 2 months, maybe, for instance, the minorities, the Kuki Joe communities started feeling that there is no point, in appealing to the central government. Also, we need certain kind of pressure
Dr.
from
Hauke, you are an academician.
other powerful
I'm just,
countries
Dr.
to
Hauke, you are an
help
academician.
the
Lal Denga
government.
Accord can take place. Longowal Accord can take place. Punjab Accord can take place. Why can't, let me be the devil's advocate, let me use that term, then, there are so many institutions available within the Union of India for the Kukizo community to talk to. There is no point writing letters to the Prime Minister of Israel, to write a letter to the European Commission, knowing very well that they would use it against India, not the Indian government. It doesn't bother me. Government comes and goes. I am a journalist. I don't care about any government. PM come and goes. I only care about India.
Indian
Bharat,
state.
Bharatvash, in the state, Indian state. My concern is Indian state. My loyalty is Indian state. It stays there. The governments come and go. Dr. Haukip.
Yes, I think my only response is that for months this violence has continued, and especially we have we have been aware and we have been discussing about the kind of killings, the attacks on villages in Kampoku district, like in Maphodam area, which is very close to Thobal, or in Khamenlok area, where hundreds and hundreds of villages were burned down with the complicity of state forces like the commandos and police, who were involved in who should have been neutral, who should have been controlling the people. Instead, they have become complicit in this violence and inciting violence, as many of the video evidences have indicated in Imphal and different areas. Had they been neutral and tried to act non-partisan, then the trust of the Kukis on the state forces and as well as the central forces would have been solid and intact, and this violence could have been controlled on the second day itself.
But this
and I think the collapse of the administration, and that is why violence continued for 1 month, 2 months, and at that juncture, the minority Kukis also felt desperate, and then they, despite appeals to the Home Minister, to the Prime Minister, and different entities, they have been desperate, and finally, eventually.
I know you are not the spokesperson. You are not the spokesperson of the community. लेकिन but Lakshman Rekha तो होनी चाहिए ना? Lakshman Rekha. अच्छा भगत साहब, हाँ.
Can I come in?
Yes.
Let me address. Yeah. Let me address Dr. Haukip by his first name, Thankolal. That I feel him, that he is close to me as much as anybody else. See, Thankolal, put your hands in your heart and just think, the story that you are saying, I am not denying, but the same story will come from the Meitei side. If I start telling you the same story, the pain, the anger, it will be the same. Because when you hear the story from both sides, those who have suffered, it's a human tragedy. And fault is us, we human. And that is why I say there is a need to detach ourselves a little bit. It is very difficult.
Correct.
It is very difficult. You are a Kuki, I am a Meitei.
Correct.
But still, being a human, it is possible to transcend a little bit and see it through. Only when we can do that exercise, peace is a possibility. Otherwise, it will never come. That is my first submission to you. I hope you understand my feeling. I mean, unless you are head on to say that everything that is happening is done by the Meiteis. The second point about this chief minister, it is not only the Kukis. Many Meiteis now, Kartikeya, have started saying that Biren Singh must be removed because things are not happening. Kuki attacks have continued and he has not been able to save the Meiteis. Now look at the other story. When Kukis say Kukis are being targeted, it is the Biren Singh who is doing it. Now the Meiteis are charging Biren that Kukis are attacking and the Biren Singh is not able to save the Meiteis. Now from both sides, poor chief minister, he becomes the target for both communities. Now tell me one thing. If you remove Biren Singh, let us assume that he is removed. Do you think the whole issue will be settled?
No.
Who is the possible chief minister who can come? And I think the chief minister is immaterial at this point. Already home affairs is looked after by the government of India. And let me also add, Kartikeya, another point. When I met an army officer in the middle of the night, one thing he told me is we were worried when we came to Manipur. And what he said, this measure, he says, we are told you are going for IS, internal security. And that is the people you are going to handle is your own citizen. You cannot shoot. So it's very easy to blame the army or anybody else. We do blame because when we are angry, we blame. But the point is, from the Meitei side, there are armed groups. Then from the Kuki side, there are armed groups. And in the middle, there is the Indian security forces. What do? And if they start shooting, the kind of collateral damage, the people will die. Innocent people will also die. And that is what government of India will least try ever. And that is why it is getting delayed. I think for Indian army, if they want, they can settle this in 10 days or 7 days.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But think the amount of, what you call casualties that is going to come. Will government of India would like to do that to its own citizens?
No
The
government
next
can
thing-
afford it.
And
No
next
government
thing,
can afford it.
Next thing, Kartikeya, you and other journalists will start BJP government, Modi government, NT people, and all kinds of things are going to come. See, it's not so easy. It's not fighting with Myanmar. It is not fighting with China or Pakistan, where you know where your opponents are. This is your own citizens. Please, Thankolal, try to understand this part as well. We all have grievances.
Thankolalji, can I say that? Can I use that
Yeah.
word?
Yeah, can I respond to
Absolutely,
this,
Thankolalji. Please respond to it. Very emotionally charged sort of a जिसे कह सकते हैं, there's a word in
Impassioned
Hindi
plea
called vaktavya. Yeah, it's not a speech. It's like he poured out a part of himself on our camera.
Yeah, my colleague Professor Bhagat had argued that changing the chief minister will not change the environment. I think this is something what the cookies are not feeling right now, because for the last 1.5 years, some of the policies of the Manipur government under Biren Singh has been anti-cookie. That has been, I'm not saying it from my heart, but this is what the pulse of the people, from Kampupi, from Chirchanpur and Tinopal feels, that he has been, very harsh on the cookies, on forest policy, on whatever. He has been very arrogant on the cookies, and he has not been dealing with them, in a proper way. So, if the chief minister change, I think the cookies will be, changing their stance on not talking with the government of Manipur. Perhaps if there is another, chief minister that comes, then perhaps they can change the mind, because he has been, slowly, framing policies that are considered to be anti-cookie for the last, many years, maybe for the last 3-4 years. So changing the chief minister would bring certain changes, slowly. I don't say that definitely it will bring instant changes, but definitely they will open their heart and talk with the new chief minister. That something I can assure. Otherwise, if the chief minister remains, then I think in a year or even in 2-3 years, the cookies will never talk with Angirins.
But Thankulalji, there is also one thing, because we started our story on the narratives. Narratives have been institutionalized. For example, I have people, sources who would send me WhatsApp, and they'll say, okay, you'll see this is Manipur commando and he's helping out Betis. Then some other source of mine will send me a WhatsApp, see, this is Assam Rifles helping out cookies. These are institutionalized bias. I never put them on air. First of all, I can't vouch for it. Secondly, you have this world of deepfakes. And third, this is institutionalization of the narrative which has started. If you look at the Editors Guild report, if you look at what the UN report is saying, it is institutionalizing, it is putting this conflict in India in terms of its global preoccupation with majority versus minority. These are the terms which we have inherited from Western epistemology. You are people of knowledge. Are you getting my point? Majorities, minorities, these are different words. I don't want to get into that, but the point is that they were trying to defame the Indian state. You know, if you look at, and you know, I have been accused on this channel for always taking side for the cookies. Every time, you know, both me and Brijesh, you know, gets like completely rolled over, you know, on Twitter for taking side. But this time, I think Bhagat Saab has a point. Just because Maitis are majority, it is very incorrect to create that narrative that they are majoritarian in outlook. ये गलत बात है. क्यों? Brijesh?
Well, absolutely, and I think, I mean, see, it's a very complex thing, and you know, I was hearing Mr. Bhagat, and I honestly feel, I mean, like, you know, he poured out his heart on our channel, and he was, what he said was a very impassioned plea for you know, things to go back normal. But the fact is that so much has happened. You know, so much has happened that I honestly am at my wit's end to see what would be the baby steps. I'm not saying that situation will come back or turn honky-dory, but I would, you know, love to hear from you, Professor Bhagat. What, according to you, would be the baby steps towards attaining peace there? Because the divide, it is super deep, irrespective of how we look at it. One community feels that they have been wronged, slighted. The other community feels the same thing with equal measure. And you know, if the chief minister, there is so much angst against the chief minister, there is a law and order problem which nobody is able to solve it. You very correctly said that if Indian army starts using you know, guns to silence it, they can do it in 1 week with heavy collateral damage. But I would want to understand from you, sir, that what is the problem then? How does the government ensures law and order? Because without getting the law and order, how do you think that the situation will get back to normal, sir?
See, dialogue is the only way out. And my request to my cookie brothers and sisters is, let us not be obsessed with this man called Biren Singh. He is not the way you think his removal will solve everything else. It is not going to be. And in fact, if you look at him, unlike his predecessors, he is more pro-tribal. And people were saying that he is playing the cards of appeasement, that he was trying to appease the Nagas, he is trying to appease the cookies. And if you look, even this, what you call eviction of settlers from forest area, it is maximum people who are evicted are the Meiteis and Meitei Muslim, Meitei Pangals. Third comes the Kuki, fourth comes the Nagas, fifth comes the what do you call Nepalis or Gurkhas.
Okay.
So we also need to see this. But somewhere down the line, Kuki groups have become very charged and unhappy. And there must be reason behind that. You can't say, oh, they are just unnecessarily becoming upset. I also know the story, Thankolal know perhaps better than me, that those, what is that Thankolal, the place where his village from where the whole problem started, from Khopum area, I'm forgetting that particular, that village, the point, yeah, come back again.
Songzang.
Songzang village, yeah. Now the point is, Kartikeya, let us be, see, I don't have to hide as a Meitei parochial individual. See, these people were given some kind of a government permit for settlement. This is a fact. They have papers with them. But unfortunately, these papers were not properly long. Only to wake up at a certain point in time. That is where I think the cookies are very, very unhappy. And perhaps their treatment, the police treatment of eviction was also not very encouraging. The violent ways. I think there should have been, I have said this once to the Honorable Chief Minister when I had a chance to meet him, that perhaps this should have been handled little more, cautiously, and engaging the cookie groups as well, civil
Bhagat
societies.
Saab, I shouldn't be asking you this on TV, but a journalist in me will always prompt me to ask this question. When you met him, what did you gauge? What was his thinking?
See, he says one thing. He said that, tell me, I mean, he was the one, he says, to recognize the Thado cookies, one particular, acceptance of a particular date, celebration. He says, I am the least one who will go against the cookie per se, but he was very critical of the illegal migrants who were engaging with the drug, what do you call that, poppy cultivation. And perhaps because there was one police officer, a lady, who has been charging him, the chief minister, of being hand in gloves with one of the cookie elected members from municipal, what is that, ADC, Autonomous District Council. So there were charges against the chief minister that he is also one of those, responsible for all these drugs. And perhaps he wants to respond by saying that I am against the drug menace. Now that handling should have been little well done, but unfortunately, it has backfired. Somehow, I would say like this. I don't know whether Thankulal will agree with me, but those vested groups within the drug cartels, somehow they had been able to influence the armed groups as well as the civil society group.
I think that's an
This is the
important.
most unfortunate part.
I think that's an important observation. Thankuralji?
Yeah, I definitely agree with my colleague. This illegal poppy cultivation and drug trafficking, which is against society. I think there should be stringent measures to control it, which, even during the current Biren Singh government, I have been suggesting ways to curb or even eliminate it, in different ways. I have, full support of the state, but there shouldn't be a kind of generalization, categorization of communities based on that. And that has been very rampant. That is why, so, sub reactions are coming up against the government. That we have to understand. And I would like to explain, more in brief about how the cookies take this eviction drive more seriously, because the eviction of tribals is very different from the eviction of other communities. Because unlike in the valley where people settle in certain pockets, you have the pata land and you settle there, you build your buildings, houses. Unlike that, in the hills, it is owned by the community as well as by the chief. And once you uh, you know say that certain villages are illegally settling there, which means that the whole villages, their forest land, their jum land, everything comes, under attack. So if you look into Kesongzang or Kumpi Nausen, which is the flashpoint in March and April, this is a village which has records as long as 150 years old. During the British time, they have already ran reports which from the British administration that they are permitted and these are their land. And Kesongzang is a kind of a hamlet which the younger brother tries to make a new village out of that bigger village. And they have proper land reports. And during the 1960s and 70s, where there was a proposal for Chulsanpur Khoukum Protected Forest,
Okay.
all these villages submitted their objection to that proposal, and it was accepted by the then assistant forest officer. And after 40, 50 years, you are setting aside those orders which have already been accepted. And I have legally examined that
Okay.
procedures also. And you come up with
Okay.
academic journals also
Okay.
very
But
soon.
okay.
And I will share with everyone. So
Okay.
these are the things that, the cookies find it unacceptable. And they are, the procedure that they have been evicted or they have been charged as illegal immigrants or encroacher. These are totally wrong. And had the government listened to the appeals of the chief and other people, then I think even this conflict would not have happened.
You know,
That's what I take.
how come I understand what you're saying, but Professor Bhagat, but the larger issue is the framing of the conflict. The way you frame the conflict, that is how people think, that is how people start reflecting on the ground, and then it changes the way people perceive it. It is like, there was a book by Arjun Appadurai, you would remember, and that is why I'm asking that, this narrative is so objectionable, which has been done by UN, when he was making, when Chandni Bar was being made, so the director went to all the bars in Mumbai, and he made the Chandni Bar. When Chandni Bar became hit, all the bars in Mumbai, they started imitating Chandni Bar. So they look like clones of Chandni Bar. So it's a cycle, sociologically. So it's like that. Then the truth gets dislocated. So is Chandni Bar truer than the bar, or the bar is truer than the Chandni Bar? Because both of them mimic each other. So my objection with this is that you're trying to frame this conflict in a way, and there is a religious war in India, which is preposterous. Bhagat Saab.
Yeah, that is two objections. One, it should not be under any circumstances seen as religious conflict, which unfortunately certain sections, I won't say all the churches, but certain church groups have tried to do it. And I have been part of a group gathering where this was attempted, and I tried to stop by saying that please, if you are going to talk about the victims, talk from both sides, not only the Christian victims. And I have said this. Perhaps they didn't like it, but I have said it. But they were also very kind of inviting me, and this is one, that conflict is not religious. Number two, unfortunately, it has turned out to be ethnic. But the beginning point was never an ethnic clash. It was certain policies of the government of Manipur, which certain sections of the Kuki communities objected to. But somehow, instead of targeting the government of Manipur, these Kuki groups, unfortunately, the armed cadres joined. Had the armed cadres sued militant or whoever it is, I don't know. I don't have the factual data with me who were those armed groups on 3rd May. But had they not been there, perhaps the violence would not have triggered in this way. That is what I feel. So an issue which was against the government of Manipur somehow got turned into against the Meiteis. And Thankholal, you will believe with me, agree with me that those who were chased out from Bishnupur and Churachandpur areas, the Meiteis, they were also middle class or poor people, not so well to do. And they have nothing to do with this conflict, but then they became victim. The worst still happened in the next day on 4th May. And I'm saying it as a Meitei, I don't have to hide about it. And I'm saying the retaliation was worse in the Imphal city. And many people, I have met few cookies who told me that I was born and brought up in Imphal city with many Meiteis friends. I cannot think of my world without the Meiteis. Think of this, of those people who are born and brought up in Imphal, had to leave the place, and have to be what you call in the refugee camps in Churachandpur or Kampukpi.
Yeah.
And then ITLF, which is an organization of the cookies, very happily declaring that now the separation is over, that there is no cookies in the Imphal Valley and there is no Meiteis in the cookie dominated areas. This is draconian. This is autocratic. They are not even thinking about the lives of the cookies who have houses, properties in Imphal. I believe, and I still say strongly, they should come back. So the Meiteis should go back to Churachandpur. We have to learn to live together.
Absolutely.
This is not the first time that conflict has happened in Manipur. We have had series of conflict. Much more life has been lost than this one. Naga cookie class was the worst. Then you had the cookies and Paites, that was the second largest victim. And now you see between the Meiteis and cookies. So this is not the end of the story. We can still repair.
Yes, you are absolutely right. We can still repair. But what needs to be really criticized is the narrative which the United Nations tried to build, which is that it's a war against Hindu Meiteis and Christian cookies. This is outrightly wrong. That is not so. This is misleading, extrajudicial killing, torture, ill treatment of ethnic minorities. I think we as Indians needs to criticize it. Secondly, I would really say what Professor Bhagat said, attempt to internationalize Manipur should not be allowed. It should not happen. Any appeal should happen within the state of India. And I think Indian institutions are strong enough to deal with it. And when we are holding G20, when we are shepherding global south, when the entire world is knocking at our door, I think we should not give them the bait of Manipur. I think that would be such a big disservice to Bharatvarsh. Big disservice to Bharatvarsh.
इंजीनियरिंग कर रहे हैं क्योंकि सभी लोग कर रहे हैं
Coaching is now starting from grade 3, 4, 5, 6.
कोटा जाने वाली बीच राह में आधे टेस्ट देके हैं सिलेक्शन की चाह में
ऑल इंडिया का बच्चा कोटा जाता है
This rat race is for rats, not for humans. So why should we even be a part of it?
The Rat Race. This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
Chat GPT. It can generate codes and human-like responses through text, write stories, and do a lot more.
I work in a newsroom with anchors, researchers and scriptwriters, graphic artists, producers, video editors, camera crew. But does a newsroom really need them today?
All of us have to think about unique and distinctive value addition that cannot be automated or repeated or replaced by a machine.
ChatGPT may kill many companies. A human has to be in the loop with an ability to control this.
Dark Side of the Boom. Streaming now.
There is some story that is coming in right now when our producer just put it out. The story is this, that an encounter has started at Riyasi yesterday where a terrorist was killed and a police personnel was in fact injured. This is the latest that we are coming to know from Jammu and Kashmir region, that there has been an encounter that has been reported where a terrorist was in fact killed. We also have come to understand that the police personnel have been rushed to the place, paramilitary forces have also been rushed to the place, combing operations as a standard procedure is in fact also happening at that location. So this is the latest that is coming in. We will keep you updated on this as the news develops. This is what we understand right now, with the news just coming in on this particular encounter that is happening, and the forces are on the ground. They are keeping a tab of the things. Right now what we understand is a terrorist has been killed and a police personnel has been injured in this particular encounter.
With all this gear, you must be wondering if I'm